Hello and welcome to the Thursday show, everybody, here on the Frontline Gaming Network. My name is Paul Murphy, your host. I'm joined by Adam Camilleri
Howdy, everybody. Even.
and Dustin Henshaw.
Howdy, howdy.
Welcome. How are y'all doing? Hope everybody is sounding off in the chat. We do this live every Thursday talking about tournaments coming up over the weekend. We're going to tell you the meta you're going to see there. We're going to tell you how to beat the meta. Well, we think we're going to tell you how to beat the meta, but that's what we try to do. But we're also going to tell you about some of the top players in attendance. I'm looking forward to this weekend, man. How are y'all doing?
I'm doing great. You guys feeling some more Warhammer talk? I'm always feeling Thursdays. I love Thursdays now.
I'm cranked. Coming off the weekend we just had, where we had three massive 100 plus player events. It's just hype time. It's all 40k all day, every day. Let's go.
So coming up soon, there's a few big events or a few dates I want you to have on your calendar pretty soon. The Las Vegas Team Tournament tickets going up for sale very soon for Frontline Gaming, and Las Vegas Open tickets for next year going up for sale very soon.
Man, it's nuts that I felt like the LVO was a couple of weeks ago, and they're already
wasn't it?
Next
this year is zipping by. It absolutely is.
I'm happy it's not going as fast as 2020 did, because literally I went to sleep, didn't leave my house for 4 months, woke up, and I'm like, 2020's over.
That was a weird year for everybody, I think.
Yeah.
So these tickets do sell out fast. So if you plan on coming, want to come, you're going to want to get these on your calendar, get in there early, get it done. That way you don't have to worry about it. Then, you're set. You're set.
Even if you're just thinking about it, just do it.
You
do not want to miss out on it, because that's the worst feeling. Believe me, that's the worst feeling.
So we have several tournaments.
I'm going to go.
We're going to run down today. The London Open for June, which, please be in London. The Bug Eater, and then the Grand Fanatic. It's going to be a big show. Lots of folks. Maybe, hopefully, if you're going to one of these events and going and want to share your list in the chat, let us know what you're taking if we don't cover it. Let's start with London. 82 players, 6-round event. We know we've seen a bunch of tournaments in that region recently.
Yeah, it's kind of nuts how essentially the UK scene has gone from being kind of one of the most active to we are the most active scene in the freaking world for per capita, per event, per region. They just smash out the 6-rounders, 7-rounders, 8-rounders, 100 plus people. Usually, this is one of the smaller ones that they do. It's actually what's going to be exciting ITC wise is, can we now make a case for somebody like someone from the UK just crushing the ITC rankings and without leaving the UK?
That's awesome. And it could happen. Mathematically, that could actually happen. And that'd be something fun to try to track along the way here. And I think you mentioned it last week.
Yeah, I did.
I think you're going to mention it every week too, because it's a pretty big deal, right? It'll be the first time it's ever happened, and it's possible for sure with all the big tournaments that are happening there. It is very possible that could happen.
Well, let's see what we're gonna face there. Dustin, would you mind doing the honors?
Not at all. So the Imperial Super Faction, there's going to be 4 Sisters, 6 Custodes, 1 Astro Militarum, 1 Admech, 3 Grey Knights, and 5 Imperial Knights. So Imperial Knights are finally starting to take up the rankings. There are Custodes up there too. The Space Marine Super Faction, there's 1 Space Wolf, 2 Blood Angels, 1 Ultramarine, 1 Salamander, 1 Imperial Fist, 1 Iron Hand, and 1 Death Watch. The Chaos Super Faction, 2 Chaos Soup, 5 Chaos Space Marines, 5 T-Suns, 2 Death Guard. Xeno Super Faction, 3 Necrons, 4 Orcs, and 12 Tau. The Hive Mind Super Faction, still 8 Tyranids, 1 GSC. In the Eldari Super Faction, there's 3 Eldari, 1 Drukhari, 3 Harlequins, 4 Assyriani, making the faction podium. Tau leading it off at 12, followed by Tyranids, and then Custodes. Kind of a call here.
This is the second week in a row that we have seen Tau kind of maintain that top spot for factions over and above Tyranids. Was the FAQ or balanced data slate, was that enough to put the Tyranids down or wrong?
Isn't. I think it's kind of a they kind of trade back and forward, kind of depending on what I think is the terrain format more than anything else.
Yeah.
I think WTC terrain, favors Tyranids over Tau way more. ITC player placed or the LGT format, which is kind of their own thing, kind of a mixture of a couple of other different formats, I think benefits Tau a little bit more than it benefits Nids. And so that's usually what we see. We usually see a 2/3 to 1/3 flip and flop between those two factions. That was all of last week as well, and this week is no different.
Yeah, no, you nailed it on the head there, Adam. What you're saying between the player place and the WTC, player place definitely favors Tau just a little bit more than Tyranids, so you'll actually see a lot more of them there. And WTC terrain does scare off a lot of Tau players because of the heaviness of it, and a little harder to get some of the angles. Although Tau still have play into that. So that's why you're
Hmm.
going to still see a lot of Tau there. Like they're still going to be high in numbers. You're just going to see those few, the top Tau just kind of drop a little bit. Like, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
We'll have to, or they might not be even practice. Maybe they're just playing for WTC because they're trying to practice for WTC teams, right? So then
Correct.
they might even drop because of that too. You'll see more Tau in this one, but
Why do we
And
think we're seeing Custodes though? That's
because custodians are still good, man.
That's
That's
true.
why. I mean,
They are.
the long and the short of it is that there's always a little bit of a reaction. Anytime there's a disruption in what people are used to playing, you're going to see the factions. People are going to instantly jump either to something else, or they just sit out that event. We sometimes talk about people chasing the meta, and even self-admitted being filthy meta chasers from time to time. But sometimes players just don't go to the event while they're trying to adjust their list. And I think the Custodes are one of those factions where they took a hit on what their list could do, what they thought their list could do, and now they're finding that maybe that's not the case, and they can still compete.
Yeah, like
Mhm.
a lot of people will just do the grass is greener. Like there's a lot of people who play a lot of Imperium super factions or a lot of different factions of which Custodes is one. And then they'll be like, well, the grass is no longer green for Custodes. We're going to go to where the grass is green. Go back to Space Marines or Sisters or Grey Knights when Armor Contempt came in. And then they just realize, well, I kind of miss playing Custodes, and they play them again. They realize, oh wow, this is just fine. This is just fine. They're not the best thing in the world anymore, but what they are is very playable.
I am surprised that the Eldari though are not in that spot though. I'm wondering what it's. I mean, I know the Eldari are kind of unforgiving. Like if you have a
Hmm.
bad couple of turns, where you did end up trading instead of just taking like they are known to do, then you probably start that downhill slide, and maybe that's why they're not in a better I guess on this faction podium anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know a lot of people actually feel less confident with Suriani Eldari in this kind of meta right now, though, because they're very, like you said, they're a very unforgiving faction right now. And if you're looking at some of the top players, they're the ones that are going to be playing it a lot. And I think that's where most of the players come from. Like, there's going to be a lot of people that are trying them out, but they're so unforgiving. You lose a couple games, you kind of lose. You lose your confidence with it. Maybe try something else. Maybe go to
Mm.
Dart, Drukhari, Harlequins. You want to try something new, right?
Yeah,
Because it's unforgiving, it can be demoralizing.
it
If that
just
makes
takes a
sense.
Yeah.
couple of blowouts in
Exactly.
practice games, and you're like, you know what? I need
Yep. You know
something that
what?
I can make a
Correct.
save with.
Exactly.
Give me something toughness for.
Exactly.
It's like Bane breaking Batman's back. You don't just bounce back up after that.
Yeah.
You got to take some
Exactly.
time to figure it out.
Yeah.
Um,
Andrew DeSalt in the chat says AdMac have fallen harder than my tech stocks,
mhm.
and that is, I will say that as for the longest time, and you heard me saying this before Armor of Contempt, that I thought AdMac were the faction that no one was playing, the people were
Yeah.
completely forgotten about. But I feel like if you're going to play a shooting army, it sounds like a lot of players are either going with Eldari or Tau, and AdMech is even further
Mhm.
hampered by the Armor Contempt, where they were just kind of out of fashion before.
Mm. I totally agree. I think they're two of the keynote pieces of that army, the big Ranger brick, the big Vanguard brick, don't operate anymore. They don't produce numbers and figures. The Ruststalkers, the Infiltrators, the tech pieces, the little bits you don't. The building blocks of the AdMech list has really fallen off, but all the bits around that are still good. So that's it's kind of weird. Like the Ruststalk is still freaking amazing. But I just want to point out, like that was just pointed out in chat by the gentleman. When has a faction won the LVO and then been nowhere to see, nowhere to be seen?
See, we
They popped
we
up, won the LVO, and disappeared. Completely
we try
disappeared.
to
It's crazy.
highlight this. The pilot, you can never count out the pilot of
Oh
some
yeah,
of these
absolutely.
things.
Mm.
That's the story there. And I also want to point out that 14 Stellar Robot's probably still pretty good. But we can't talk in Fantasyland. We got to talk about what is right
Uh,
now. So let's talk
well,
about some of the top competitors and the list we're
perfect.
going to see here.
Perfect. David Gaillard is the top ranked gentleman in attendance, currently ranked third in the UK. He's playing High Fleet Leviathan Tyranids. This is a pretty straight up and down Tyranids list. It's funny that we're seeing a few different flavors of the Leviathan build, even like so. Tyranids is the top meta build, is the top meta faction, and then within the Tyranid kind of meta game, there's the Leviathan builds, and in the Leviathan builds, there's starting to become diversity between them. So this is a really weird one. Sorry, no, this is a really weird same kind of getting its own archetype. It's got a battalion, Neurothrope Flyerant, 9-9-3-3 warriors. That's 2 units to 9, 2 units to 3. A
I like
Maliceptor.
that.
I like that
Me,
too.
me too. I actually like that a lot. 2 units of 2 Pyrovores, 3 Tyrant Guard, 3 Venom Thropes, 3 Zoanthropes, and 2 Harpies. It's almost like there's the archetypes that are the single battalion with the double harpies, or there's the double battalion with the double flyrants. So they're kind of becoming a bit of a parting of the waves moment. In addition, the warrior differences. A lot of people are taking 4x5 warriors, but this gentleman has decided to go, the two bigs, two smalls. Some people are going the 3 or 4 smalls. It's kind of interesting to see how people are crafting those things differently.
I like this. I like this, I think, more than some of those other variants you were talking about. Anytime I can look at a unit or two and think that's where I want to put my stratagems. Now, my opponent knows that, but I'm still getting more. If I get the opportunity to do that with my stratagems, I'm getting more value out of them. So I like the larger units. And I think that for a Leviathan build, as opposed to like a Kraken type build, then this might be the superior build.
Yeah.
I'm gonna weigh in on that, Paul, because
Yeah. Oh, by all means, you're the
because
expert.
I agree. I actually like this better than the battalion patrol or double patrol or whatever you end up doing. The second flyrant is nice, but it's harder to protect them now, even with the tyrant guards. It's harder to keep them both alive. Like you're either sacrificing one or you're putting them both in there to kind of go ham with the harpies. I really like the taking out that one flyrant, adding another brick of 9 warriors, so you can kind of mix up the strats. So you can use one a little bit more defensively, another one offensively. So they may not know exactly where your strats are going, but you can protect one of them. And then the 2x2 pyrovores just for tech pieces and flamers, wherever you need to use it for. And you have every other piece that you need in this list. I actually love this. This might be my favorite tier list that I've seen in a while now.
But there's a lot of people out there that are like really split on the harpies. Either
I
they're
know.
like huge evangelists of the harpies, or they're like the harpies are trash, and those lists are also trash.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I think I talked about it last time too. Like I'm a big fan of the harpies. I think they're amazing right now.
see, I'm the opposite, but I don't play Tyranids, so my opinion matters far less than
He's
Dustin's does.
harpy trash is what he
Harpy
is.
trash.
I just think of the games where you want to take to the last and sit back and not do much. You just can't not let them. You're giving them something to shoot when you don't want to interact with them, because you can't hide the harpies. They're huge. They don't get covered because they're airborne, and that's the only reason that I think they're not as good as some people.
Then you'd love this build because the to the last year the 2 9 bricks of warriors and the flyrant.
But that's what I mean. No. Of course. But you sit. I knew that obviously. But of course, but when you sit back and you play to the last game, you're still you're by default giving them something to kill, something good to kill. And that's the only reason.
And I like the idea of where you do just push them up in people's faces. Like you can deal with this or you can't. And what we've seen in game after game after game, some list, even good list, even deep in the tournaments, top list can't deal with those harpies, and so they linger for a couple of more turns than the opponent might have expected, and end up being like a backbreaking piece.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
there is a lot of depth in this codex, and so there's multiple ways to get there.
Jumping down to one of the Mr. Gaillard was the only person in the top 10 in attendance. I just picked out 2 lists that I wanted to see. I went and looked at some of the Custodes lists because there's a bunch of Custodes this event. I want to see what that looked like. And this is one of the ones that I found the most interesting. This is Martin Lakeland. He's playing Emperor's Chosen, single battalion. He's got a Blade Champion and Trajan as his HQ choices, a 1 unit of 3 Custody Guard, 4 units of 3 Sagittarum, a single Vexilla, and then 3 units of 3 bikes of Virtus Praetors. I'm like, that's trim, it's nice, it's all either infantry or fast, so the terrain, you can make good use of terrain. It's weird to see the Sagittarum at the moment, because I feel like they just don't do anything into Armor of Contempt. How do you guys feel about this one?
I like it. I'm on the same page as you with the Sagittarum now because of them losing OBSEC. For me, it actually
Man,
really
don't tell me
hurts.
that. I got some right behind me. I got some.
I mean, they're amazing. You should finish painting them and make sure that you're going to put them on the table, Paul. There's never reason to not paint something.
It's so cool.
Sorry, the Sagittarum have OBSEC still, don't they? They're troops. Are you thinking? You're thinking the Birdie Boys?
I'm thinking Birdie Boys. Am I thinking the wrong thing?
Yeah, I'm talking about there's the heavy bolter infantry from Forge World.
Oh, I like that.
Nice. Back on the menu.
I like those. Yeah, you're good, Paul. You're good.
Thanks.
I like them a lot. I just worry their damage output just isn't there.
They're only -1.
They're only -1.
Yeah.
Unless you're in I think is it 12 or 18 inches, and then they've got a one shot at strength 5 -3 2 damage, I think. Or is it? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, some of
I,
this, what I think about this list is I think there's some holdovers here. Like there's probably some vestiges of a previous incarnation
Mm,
in this
of
list,
course.
and then you got things like the Blade Champion that have worked their way in, and then probably more
yeah.
Virtus Praetors that were
Mhm.
there before. So probably, if I had to theorize what the Sagittarium are doing, is that they're going up there and holding that mid board
Mm,
and allowing and probably backed up by the Blade Champion, a little bit of counter assault type deal, and Trajan can't count on Trajan, but a lot of work is probably getting done by the non-Virtus Praetors.
Yeah, they need
yeah.
to be too. Like when you have 3x3 still, like that's something you're not going to see as much anymore. A lot of people drop them down to 2 squads, 1 squad, or just drop them entirely with everything that hit them the data slate. So it's surprising to still see some of them out there. But the thing is, they're still really good. Like they're really good.
Dude, yeah, I think they're necessary in the
Yeah,
current
I do too.
in the current metagame. I think they're 100% necessary because what we've seen happening is everyone's dropping the Praetors and kind of adding in Dreads or Caladius tanks,
Mhm.
and then like, are you just like Death Guard light? Are you just pseudo Death Guard at that point? Because everything's slow. It's
Mhm.
durable. It punches like a truck, but it is slow, and we don't see many slow armies doing well. You still need to have some speed. So I do like some Virtus Praetors in every list. Um, yeah, but only thing I'm weird of is it's a lot of points in Sagittarium, but mind you, they got 3 Misericordias now. They're actually not crap in combat. They got like 3 or 4
Oh, there
attacks
you go.
each, hitting on twos, a strength 5 -2.
Well, and backed up by
That's
those two
fine.
characters too. I mean, you
Hmm.
can't, you don't want to be at mid range from them, and they're going to be on the middle of the board. You don't want to go close to them because there are going to be these two stout characters. Although the
Yeah,
Blade Champion, that's the one that's throwing me off. It's like, is that a points decision? Like, why is that Blade Champion there? What am I not seeing with the Blade Champion?
it's a great way of defending an objective or taking a mid-board objective because you got the big intervention, you got the fights first, and that guy absolutely shreds, like he
Hmm.
shreds. I'm a fan of him in there. It's weird to have that included and not have another shield. Usually see the Blade Captain being the third HQ choice. You'll have
Mhm.
Trajan, you'll have a shield captain on bike or Mr. Worldwide with the Praetorian plate, and then you'll have the Blade Champion be the third one in. I don't hate them being second one in, but that makes me think that this is a running as a blob. Everyone's just
Yeah.
blobbed up around
Yeah.
Trajan, smashing up the board, with the Vexilla, and then the Virtus Praetors playing the flanks. But anyway, moving on,
Well,
gentlemen.
I got a few
Both.
comments in the chat I want to highlight here. I have not seen the Blood Angel meme where that you're referring to, but I want to, so maybe I'll find it after this. And I got some homework to do. Nurgle Matt, World Cup 19. Thanks a lot for checking in and being nice to each other in the chat. If you're
Hmm,
listening to us after the fact on the podcast aggregators, we actually have a great group of folks that come up and watch us live every Thursday. And so if you find yourself with a little spare time and want to come do that, that's something that we do. You can see us on YouTube in the competitive 40K Facebook group and Twitch. Maybe, I don't know. We're all over the place. Come join us there if you can. I really appreciate that. So
Confirmed, we are on Twitch.
what's the next what's the next list?
So everybody sit down because the next list is Night Lords.
Oh yeah, here
And
we go.
I'm hoping that so in maybe a month or two's time, when the Chaos Space Marine book comes out, this is a legit list because this is just kind of what I want to see from Chaos Space Marines. This is what I want a Chaos Space Marines book to look like and be good, be
Well,
relevant on the
we've
table.
seen a lot of chaos representation coming
Mhm.
out of the UK.
It
Like
it
typically, it's like is
spikes,
Death
yeah.
Guard or what have you.
Hmm.
But we've also seen a bunch of chaos soup and CSM and stuff in this. So I want to see what this list is about.
Yeah, month by month, you're absolutely right. It spikes in different directions. So this one, Night Lords, it is being run by Charlie Showan, sorry. It's got a patrol, Demon Prince, 10 cultists, 2 units of 8 Zerkers, 8 men, so he's doing it right. 7 Warp Talons, 8 Warp Talons, and then 2 Rhinos to support the Zerkers, I'm assuming. Then he's got another patrol with a Sorcerer and a Termi Sorcerer, so that's his complement of Psychic Goodness. 5 Chaos Space Marines, 8 and 7 Termies, and I believe if I remember right, they're all got combi melters. So 15 Termies, combi melters, 2 units of
Yeah, that's
5
nice.
Raptors, and this guy's a Chad. Have you got it in there? Yeah, what a Chad at the bottom.
There
Yes,
we
you
go,
put it in there.
perfect. Yeah.
Love it. Yeah, I love this list. I want this list to be really good. I want this list to be spicy, crazy. I mean, it's not good, but I love it to death.
I think it takes some good journalship and some good awareness of what you're trying to do when you
Mm,
just don't lead out with a battalion. You know,
yeah, yeah,
You're
that's
gonna
true.
catch a lot of people off guard with it too. They're gonna be like, Warp Talons? What are those?
Yeah, what do they even do?
Raptors? What the heck is
Yeah,
that?
huh? What? What? Yeah. So turn one, he's just gonna shoot out Zerkers and kill anything that'll essentially try and stop the Terminators, and the Terminators drop in, do a bunch of damage, try and make a charge, and he's got 4 units of jump pack goodness. Just going around playing the board, getting your engage, R&D, all that stuff.
So
Yeah.
what do Night Lords do for him?
Not enough is the answer to that question.
I'm asking questions. I mean, I want to know. I want to feel like,
So-
why go with this? What benefit does the Night Lords? Maybe there's a meta trick, that I'm
So
missing.
you can still make some really exceptionally killy characters. You can still, he's got icons of excess all over the place here. So he's got explodings on 5s for death to the false everyone. So his melee's good.
And you're not limited to a specific mark of chaos either, which is
No, not at all. Yeah,
which is good.
Yeah, so
And-
those Termies can have the Slit Ash, so they can fire twice. And I think Night Lords are the ones that have the hold and combat strat, don't they?
Yeah, no fallback.
That can be a big deal when you have an army of close combat,
Burra Lakeland said they're Night Lords, not Wind Lords.
Yes. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Yet, hopefully. Because all the leadership debuffs, there's just so many armies that just don't care. Like, you went into Tower Crisis Suits and killed all the drones, they don't matter for leadership. So all your leadership doesn't matter.
You know what you should do?
You went
You
into
should add
Tyranids.
some Chaos Knights into the Night Lords, so the leadership
Yeah.
guys can
And Dread
get that
Bomb
dread
them.
happening.
Red Bomb them.
Then everyone's neg 4, neg 5, where they're like,
Yeah.
man, this I can't charge anything. I
You're
can't
welcome,
shoot."
chat. You're welcome.
Spicy tech. So what's that? Just like a couple units of Raptors running behind your Abominate. Just like, yoo-hoo, -4 bubble.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. But anyway, Charlie, you're an absolute Chad. Good luck to you. I hope you do really well.
Yeah. Rhino meta representing.
Toronto meta.
Okay, look, we can't get out of this without picking a faction winner. You pick a player or pick a faction you think is going to bring down this tournament.
I like that Tyranid list too much. I can't not go with it.
Yeah, I do really like that Tyranid list, but I'm going to pick from... Yeah, let's go Harlequins.
Oh, man, you stole my pick because Harlequins actually won pretty
Oh.
well last weekend.
Oh yeah.
And that's another list that, it does take skill to play. It is subjective to I won't say some dice rolls because they can influence their own dice rolls, but you could have some real blowout turns like we were talking about. But Harlequin players are finding ways to still win, and I think they got a good shot here too.
Yep. I'm going to go with that too.
Next event we're going to talk about is the Bugeater 2022 Omaha, Nebraska. That's in the United States, if you couldn't tell from those series of words I just said. It is 109 players, 6-round event. So Dustin, what are we going to see there?
Bugeater. I feel attacked. All right. Imperial Super Faction. There's 5 Sisters, 5 Custodes, 3 Astra Militarum, 4 Grey Knights, 6 Imperial Knights, Space Marine Super Faction, 5 Dark Angels, 3 Space Wolves, 2 Blood Angels, 1 Ultramarine, 2 Black Templars, and 3 Iron Hands. Wow.
Mhm.
Chaos Super Faction, 1 Chaos Soup, 1 Chaos Space Marine, 1 T-Stun, 3 Death Guard, and 2 Renegade Knights. Xenos Super Faction, there's 4 Necrons, 3 Orcs, 11 Tau. That seems to be like the number for the Xenos factions right now. Hive Mind Super Faction, there's 11 Tyranids, 1 GSC. I love how there's always just one GSC. There's just one in every tournament.
It's the
one
same
hero.
guy.
It's the same guy playing all these
Yeah.
tournaments at the same time. Eldari Super Faction, there's 1 Eldari, 3 Drakari, 2 Harlequins, and 10 Asuriani. Making the faction podium, Tyranids and Tau tied at 11, which again, this is kind of what it is. Asuriani at 10, and then Imperial Knights taking the bronze with 6. They're outnumbering the Renegade Knights, so people are just more on the Imperial Knights than Renegade Knights right now, aren't they?
I think it's something
Bugeater
like...
is a long-standing tournament too. I think this is one that's been around for a long time. I don't actually know the number of years, and I hope it's the same one. So I'm not speaking out of turn here, but Bugeater's been around for a long time. Tournament to put on your radar if it isn't already.
Yeah, venerable. Before I even was really paying attention to events like in 7th edition, I remember hearing Bugeater like being called out on signals by recent Frankie and stuff like that. So it's lovely. It's still going. Amazing. Apart from the 3 top, 11, 11, 10 of the 3 top factions, it's a great spread. It's actually a really good spread if you'll actually scroll down it, guys.
You got Imperial Knights, basically coming in 4th there, which we have the honorable
Yep.
mention on the podium, which is cool. But that's still 6 Imperial Knights. Shows some confidence in the list, and it'd be nice to talk about how that's going to work out the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, the Renegade Knights thing though, I do believe it's hobby lag. Like they just got
cool.
the bomb kit.
A
They
renegade?
just got the new War Dog kits. And like all those Reaper cannons that you want to take, they're going to take time for people to paint up because you want to
Oh,
run
come
like
on. People are just going to
9
run
of
Knights
them.
as Chaos Knights. They were doing that
It's
before
true.
Chaos Knights even existed.
Don't
So
besmirch my people. They wouldn't do that. They
I
wouldn't
know
do
because
that.
I co-host the show with one of the guys that did that.
You
All right, he
well,
was
you
running
tell
Chaos
him
before he existed.
he's disappointing the code. There's a code, right?
He
We live
just
by it.
puts all the codes. That's not that's
Wait,
that's fine.
you can't dual purpose your knights?
You totally can. Do whatever you want. I'm
Like,
just
that's what
throwing
I've done.
shade.
I've definitely dual purposed, and I do
Yeah,
have. I've got
exactly.
Code,
I've-
Paul.
See,
I've got
It's
two
the
unpainted
code.
Reaper
But the
Cannon knights
code.
right over there.
Nah, it's so good. Anyway, top players in attendance at this bad boy. The Bam Bam Hunter, who I had to bring it up, it won a GT with Space Wolves, I think a week or two just gone, who's in attendance. Had to pull it out, had to slap it up there, because I don't get it. I looked at his list, and I'm like, I don't get how you won with this list, Bam Bam, so we need to talk about it. He's just got a battalion. He's got a Chapter Master, who I believe is on a bike. He's got a Phobos Libby, Primaris Chappie on a bike, 5 Intercessors, 5 Incursors, 5 Infiltrators, 2 units of 5 Blade Guard, 5 Wolf Guard with jump packs, 3 units of 5 Wolfen, 2 single Cyber Wolves, and a unit of Eradicators. And I'm like,
Yeah, this is
this
taking advantage of all those Space Wolf rules.
Mhm.
yeah, but it's like straight up nothing special. I looked at it, I'm like, yeah, this is just like an all-comers Space Wolves list.
No,
I
mean,
what you're figuring
I mean,
out,
which
is that Blade
good.
Guard are good. Like Blade
Yep.
Guard, especially when you add a little bit of extra rule on top of them, they become really great. Terrain also is a big thing. So if I'd probably suspect that they're expecting to see a bunch of terrain in the center of the tables.
Or player
Yeah.
plays too. Like the thing is too, like you're looking at the Space Wolf list. This is when you look at it, it looks just like a Blood Angels list right now too. Just Wolfen instead of Sangard, like
Correct. Yep, correct.
same kind of thing. So and they have really good rules too. So I mean, the pilot's good enough with it, and they're practiced.
Dude,
They know how to play these.
I am on good terrain. I think Wolfen can be oppressive as hell. And I love one of the reasons I love Wolfen right now is because they are the perfect everything to killing Nids. They're the perfect everything. As long as you can stop them from being smited, there's no profile that they have that doesn't just smash warriors, pyrovores, raveners to absolute bits. And the fact is, you can get charged and you still get to trade because they always fight on death if they haven't fought already. It's if I remember right, it's 4-1. It's the standard 4-1. I mean,
So
you would
what
take
we
5.
had a question in the chat was how many Thunderhammers might you think are spread around this army list? And so that's the question you were answering.
Yeah, all the Wolfen have 4th hammers, and the one sergeant has to take the lightning claws. Has to take the lightning claws, can't not. And I think that's the right thing to do at the moment. I think even with armor contempt meaning it, you need the invuln more than you need the armor save for
Yeah.
Wolfen, because what people are going to be hunting them with is like they must die weapons.
Yep.
So they're not shooting AP freaking zeros at you anyway. So whatever. Or AP ones. But the way this works is that like turn 2 or turn 3, you're in combat on 5 fronts playing against this list, and 3 of those fronts are on Wolfen fronts. As in 3 times, it doesn't matter if you interrupt, you're still going to die. And then one of them will be fights lasted by the Pelt of Russ.
That's because they fight on death. So
Yeah.
you do kill them, but they do fight on death, and they're very potent attackers, and so you will become casualties as well.
So
this is why we need Paul with Adam. He kind of helps to explain exactly what he's talking about for everybody. It's perfect dichotomy here.
My head goes a bit too quick for my mouth. So yeah, he'll fight you on 5 fronts, and then he'll go first with 1. 1 will be fights lasted, and then you'll get to interrupt on Wolfen, which is bad. Which is not possible. And so he'll just eat 5 units in a turn. When he puts the pressure on.
That's
also
great odds, by the way. That's a good ratio of taking.
Taking and not letting have back. The Eradicators are a weird one. Do you think that's a concession to the Knight meta or to the Tower meta? Like, why do you think
can't go wrong with Eradicators? I think almost every Space Marine, if you're playing Space Marines and you don't have 3+ Eradicators, you will never go wrong with having 3+, getting them. I think that's they're right now, at least for the foreseeable, this edition and beyond, probably an evergreen unit.
Yeah,
totally. Yeah,
Knights,
agree.
Harpies, transport, can openers. Like you need those too. So
I mean, people get their characters out of place all the time.
That's true.
You just be like, what? I'm gonna solve this problem with a couple of Eradicator shots. I start talking about that. I'm granted people's anything Meltas, and especially Meltas that have increased range on a sturdy profile like them will basically always be good. I think. So
So jumping down, we had 6 night lists in attendance, and instead of pulling out a night list, which unfortunately is a little bit boring to just try and unpack unless it's something super spicy, I actually looked at all 6 lists and did a little bit of an internal meta breakdown of the Knights meta, just to see what people were playing. So there are 6 lists. 4 of them are Tyranids and 2 of them are Raven. So that's the only 2 things being taken. No
okay.
Imperialists at all. It's just 4 Tyranids, 2 Raven. Four of those lists have a 3-4 split of Questoris to Armiger classes. So that's 3 Questoris, 4 Armigers. And then
Mhm.
2 of the lists have a 2-7 split of 2 Questoris, 7 Armigers.
Mhm.
Of those 6 lists, there are 19 Warglaves, as in melee Armigers, across the 6 lists, and 11 Helverins. And then the breakdown of the Questoris chassis sits as thus. There's 5 Errants, 6 Paladins, 3 Preceptors, 5 Crusaders, and 3 Gallants. So the Paladin is taken in every single one of those lists, and the Crusader is taken in all bar one of them.
Hang on one second. I want to Dustin. Do you know the difference between all those knights?
This is why you're here, Paul.
One's a shooty one, the other's
Man,
double
one's-
shoots.
one
One's a
has
one
guns.
copy, one's a shooter.
One's got a weird shoulder pad that the other ones don't have. I think It's,
No. Just want to slightly break down maybe why you might see some of those configurations and who's going with
Yeah.
more close combat versus more guns.
So it's interesting to note that the Paladin, I believe the Paladin is one of the worst data sheet knights, as in its gun is very
Huh.
average at the moment, but its buff, the buff that it gives, which is the bondsman ability that it gives out to smaller knights, is reroll once to hit and once to wound. It's phenomenally powerful. And in almost every case that I looked at, it's taken the upgrade that allows it to give that buff to a big knight instead of a little knight. And so that's why it's being taken.
So it's
being
just got a
taken-
battle cannon or whatever, but it makes everybody around it, a lot more effective with everything they have.
Real good.
Mm.
Real good. So usually it'll be buffing a Crusader or an Errant who will then pop off and try and do a bunch of mortals and just be like an impressive firing piece. Especially
The Imperial
in
Knights have
the-
a way of doing a ton of mortals for like one of their shots. They just have to kind of connect, and then it does max mortal damage to whatever it shot.
Exactly right. The Gallant's the melee knight, but the Errant is the spicy one. The Errant has what I believe is the second best of the bondsman traits, that being advance and charge. And there's 5 of the Errants. So all bar one player is trying out the advance and charge in some way, shape, and form. As in, you playing more of a pressure style knights list, which I prescribe to for sure. Dustin, you got any comments on this meta?
I feel a lot better about taking an 80-point Primus for reroll ones to hit and wound, so I don't have to take
That was a comment in the chat. Was like, imagine taking a knight for its buffs, but remember, it does like where some of these other
Yeah.
characters, like Imperial Guard or that guy that's pushing around his desk. The guy drug his desk out of his office and is now in your army.
Yeah.
But
So good.
he has, the knights are still this like bundle
Mhm.
of really good
Mm.
stats that are difficult for some armies to deal with.
Oh, it is
Why
too.
do-
If you're not ready to fight knights, like if you don't have 5 eradicators in your Space Marine list, you might have trouble dealing with them.
Mhm. Why are we seeing more? I mean, I believe I know why. Why do you guys think we're seeing more Warglaves than Helverins? Like, why is there more melee?
Because Meltas, man, because they also come with a Melta gun. That's why.
Yeah, because they have profile for both phases.
Yeah.
They're actually good in close combat, and they still have a decent firing profile.
Like on the Renegade side, I'm kind of looking at things. It's like I know that it's super hot on the 12 shot cannon, which it is good, but I'm thinking, man, I'd just rather have more claws and Meltas.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. When you're especially for the big nuts, when you're paying for something like that, I feel like it has to be good in both phases. I don't like taking something that's just good in close combat or just good in shooting. I
Yeah.
want it to be able to do at least decent in both. And for me, that makes a lot more sense to bring it with those the Warglaves because they can do both. So then I can use them aggressively. I can use them a little bit defensively if I really want to. But if you're taking Errants, you're running at them almost like 100%, right?
And then Restasanti says that Warglades are 10 points cheaper. So I guess
Hey, even better. All right, see, getting
it's a
rewarded
bargain
for
at
this
twice the
strategy, too.
price.
For me, it's application on the table. Like, if you think about a standard like Dawn of War setup, yeah, you're going to have like 2 firing lines. Like is like an average, and so knights have got massive freaking bases, and you're going to have probably a Crusader taking up one of those. The other firing lane probably only has space for like 2-3 Helverins at best. Each you need stuff that moves and gets angles. You don't want those little chicken walkers with their 2 autocannons getting wrapped in the middle of the table. That's a game losing position. So when you're talking about competition for the firing lanes in your deployment zone, I think there's only space for like 3 or 4 models.
Yeah,
So
and you want those to be like bigger knights, I think, because they got better
you want
guns,
them.
right?
You want at least one of those to be a big knight because it's a freaking big knight. It's
Yeah.
great. So
And look,
yeah,
Him Fluffy also points out in the chat that though not only are the Warglaives cheaper, but because they can melee get up there and mix it up, and their objectives are secured, and can help flip objectives
flip
more easily.
objectives.
Yeah, exactly.
So
That's a good point.
yeah, kind of lines all those things up. And so no, yeah, thanks for the comments. That's a great question. But I think this is still a little bit in flux. I don't know that
Yeah,
anyone
early
has
days.
found the
Mhm.
be all end all
Mm.
knight or renegade knight list yet. So
Yeah.
what
We're
else are we
still in
seeing?
baby
What's the
phases.
next?
So, and last one we'll talk about here is Michael Mann. He's playing Drakari, Prophets of Flesh, Coteries of the Homunculi. I've been waiting to see these start to pop up from the Rift War
Rift War, yep.
campaign. Yeah, I think this is a good list, boys. It's a triple patrol. It's all Prophets of Flesh. He's got a Homunculus, a unit of 20 racks, and a unit of 5 racks. I can tell you that 20 racks has everything, every upgrade you can give it, all the Aussies and the whips and all that stuff. 2 units of 6 grotesques. Then the second patrol starts up with Drazar, another Homunculus, 10 Homoxites, another unit of 20 racks with all the trimmings, 2 units of 5 Incubi, and a Raider to be the kind of circus bus having the Incubi and Drazar in it. And then his last patrol is just straight up a Homunculus, another unit of 20 racks, and another unit of 6 grotesques. So that's 3 units of 20 racks with all the trimmings, 3 units of 6 grotesques, 2 units of Incubi, and a bunch of characters.
So what are the coteries giving him? Like, what is like why is this here as opposed to one of the other variants?
So first off, anytime any unit in this army kills a unit, you can spend CP, and that unit will go from having a 5+ Feel No Pain or a 5+ Shrug to having a 4+. In addition, the same rule kicks in if they ever
Forever
get below,
or just that
forever for the remainder of the game. So it's a strat. So it's once per phase. So if you shoot something dead, you can do it. If you fight something dead, you can do it. And then in addition, when any unit in this army goes under half strength, they get the same rule comes into effect. So when one of the unit of 20 racks goes down to 10, I'm not sure if it's at half or below half, could be 9, they will be twice, effectively math-wise, almost twice as hard to kill thereafter. So the first half is, predictable to kill, and then the second half becomes almost twice as hard to kill.
Swings it, and then theoretically, your opponent has less things to interact with those units, and so it becomes it's not a linear scale. It seems like it'll get worse.
Yeah, there's one more massive thing that they get.
Yep.
They get army-wide fall back in charge.
Just because.
Just because
advance in charge and fall back in charge. So
yeah, they don't power from pain.
Yeah, luckily they don't get Prophets of Flesh or any of that. Like they won't get -1 damage or Artists of Flesh for supercharging anything. Praise be, they won't get any of that. But they get this instead, and what they get instead is a lot. I think this has been called like Rack City B. But we'll see. People can call it whatever they want. I like that.
You got to win with it, and then you can name it.
Exactly. You got to earn the title
until you win with it.
I think this is a phenomenally good list, and the reason I think it's a phenomenally good list and archetype at the moment is it's stretching the meta back the other way. Everyone is stretching to tech into killing big old multi-wound models, be that crisis suits, NIDs, knights, and this is stretching it the other way. It's be like, I've got a bunch of little buggers, and they're all so much harder to kill than I think you're prepared for. I mean, who's taking Hurricane Bolters anymore? Like, who's taking, assault cannons? Stephen Box, yeah, that's true. Yeah. But like, who's like, that's not a meta take. That's not a thing that is being taken wholesale in the meta. This is going to run some people over.
Yeah. That's. I think you're right. At least it's going to make an impact where I think people were easily thought that the Drakari, the door had shut on them, and this has kind of opened it up again, which is nice because it gives some breath to those generals.
Yeah, for sure. And I can speak from personal experience. This is a nightmare to play.
Yeah.
An absolute nightmare. And people ask me why I bring 3 Calamorphs. There it is, right there.
Pop the Homunculuses, make them all toughness, go down in toughness.
They go toughness 4, let's shoot some racks. They are so good in this matchup.
All right. Well, look, we got to pick a faction winner here. What do we think's taking this tournament down? Bugeater is going to be claimed by one list, one person.
I'm picking this one. I'm picking that one.
The rack spam?
I'm picking the racks.
Yeah. I feel like this is one of the first times I've seen it kind of show up, and I don't think people are ready to deal with this in the meta right now. I would have to agree with it right now. It's a nightmare to play against, and it just wins on primary. It is so hard to stop it for primary.
It's oppressive. Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Eldari. So what are you gonna say?
Funny enough, in chat, someone just asked, wouldn't Renegade Knights run roughshod over this? They actually would. Renegade Knights would do really well. All those chain cannons, and then just having sweeps on sweeps on sweeps on sweeps, incidental little mortal wounds, dread tests.
Very difficult for this list to wound that the Knights.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
they
can't
didn't take too
exactly.
much to do that, but it's
Yeah.
just weight of bodies. You're on the objective, and can you take him off? But unfortunately, there's only 2 Renegade Knight players here, right? There's only 2.
There's
of them,
only
so
2. Yeah.
pretty good
Got
chance
the work
he's
cut
gonna
out
avoid
for
him.
him. Look,
The
we're gonna take a brief pause here, take a break for some station identification for from our sponsors, Frontline Gaming. Check out what they got to offer, and then we'll come back and do one more event. And at the end of the show, you got to stick around to the very end of the show because we have a palate cleanser after all this crunchy talk about the meta and all the grindy factions. We're gonna, get a little silly.
Okay,
We'll see
grab
y'all in
your
a minute.
At Frontline Gaming, we make the best tabletop gaming mats in the universe. Our mats are durable, rollable, foldable, wipeable, and storable. Oh, and they look damn great too. Join the thousands of tournament regulars and garage gamers who use our mats to bring their gaming surfaces to life. To ensure quality, Frontline Gaming mats are custom made one at a time, printed with high quality ink. Our immersive designs stay crisp and are available in a wide range of styles and sizes. So whether you're playing a war game or a skirmish game, whether you're fighting over an alien tundra, fantastical forest, or real-world setting, there's a great-looking battlefield for you. Our gaming mats are printed on extremely durable neoprene backing, so they won't slide around the table, and they're thick enough to stay flat, protecting what's underneath and allowing for slight uneven surfaces. We know from experience that an easily portable gaming surface is just better. Every mat comes with a sturdy nylon zip-up bag for storage and transportation. Whether your next battle is in your home or at the local game store, you'll be able to unroll your FLG mat and get gaming right away. Our products are all made and tested by passionate gamers at Frontline Gaming HQ right here in the USA. It's time to take your battlefield to a new level. Frontline Gaming, champions of tabletop.
We are back, everyone. Thanks for hanging with us. Please check out those mats, the tables, the terrain, the stuff. Anyway, you should check it out.
Absolutely, this is great quality stuff. I need to buy 2 more. I'm sick of my GSE fighting on forests. I need.
Next event we're going to be talking about is the Grand Fanatic from Balsta, Sweden. 80 players and 24 player teams, not 24 player teams. There's no good way of saying that.
There really isn't, man.
It is a 5-round event. So with this faction breakdown, it may be a little bit more different than the ones we've read before, because there's going to be a limit to some of the factions that we could possibly see at this tournament over the course of the weekend.
Yeah, this is a straight up WTC prep event, and the reason we're drawing a spotlight on this one is that I've got some great insider knowledge from our wonderful man Neil Kerr, who told me Team Sweden, Team Finland, the national teams from a lot of Scandinavian countries are sending representative teams to this to test out their tech in the lead up to WTC. So we're going to see some extremely high caliber players playing very well versed, very technical lists.
Yeah, keep an eye on these guys for sure. These are the kind of lists that I always look at. I love these.
And for those you don't know, the WTC rules, and the rules almost unanimously across the world now for team events, is that you get to use a book once in your team lineup. So that is 1 Space Marine list, that is 1 Drukhari list, that is 1 Tyranid list in your team. And so when you see the Tyranid numbers, that will tell you how many teams took that faction as
That'll
well.
tell you how many teams are there.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, I was surprised it didn't. I was like,
no, I'm
we
kidding. Yeah.
20
Well,
Tyranids,
because
but
going
not.
into these things, we talk about being the meta or beating the meta. In a team event, you really can. You're going to see skewed lists sometimes. When you say technically sound list, you mean lists that are all designed with a very specific purpose, and that is beating the meta. So, sometimes the team tournaments craft their own meta. But let's go down the list of factions, and then we'll talk about if anything that we just said is accurate.
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad we're going to talk about that afterwards. So Imperial Super Faction, there's 5 Sisters, 6 Custodes, 4 Grey Knights, and 6 Imperial Knights. So far, only like a quarter of teams took all of those. Space Marine Super Faction, there's 1 Dark Angel, 1 Space Wolf, 2 Blood Angels, 2 Salamanders, 1 Raven Guard, and 2 White Scars, totaling 9 teams that took Space Marine player. Chaos Super Faction, there's 1 Chaos Soup, 1 Chaos Space Marine, 5 T-Suns, 1 Death Guard, 1 Demon, and 3 Renegade Knights. The Xeno Super Faction, 1 Necron, 1 Orc, 7 Tau. So it's still pretty similar to what we normally see in the singles events. Hive Mind Super Faction, 12 Tyranids, 4 GSC. That's right. More people are coming to these team events. GSC are actually a really good team.
They are amazing.
And Eldari Super Faction, there's 5 Eldari, 2 Drukhari, 2 Harlequins, and 4 Asuriani. And this, we should point out too that the Eldari, Harlequins, and Asuriani all count towards the same codex. So that's 11 teams that took the Eldari codex. And that's the faction podium of Tyranids at 12, Tau at 7, then Imperial Knights and Custodes tied in bronze for 6.
So let's back up to that G Sealer cult.
Okay. Sure. Let's talk about Jesus cult. Let's go, Paul.
No, I do want to know why you think that those, or why is it, not why you think, but why is it they are great team lists?
Because GSC have the same kind of ability that Eldari do in terms of just getting points. They can build lists that's skewed to just get points, and they can be a good defender to make sure they deny a lot of points with all their shenanigans of coming in from deep strike just outside of 3 inches, respawning guys on the objectives in the command phase. Like, they have a lot of ways to dull really strong lists, and they have builds that counter meta lists. The only problem is singles are one of the reasons that a lot of people struggle with in the singles event, because they have some hard matchups. If you take an all-comers GST list, it's really bad when you run into one of those like hard counters. Like Dark Harlequins comes to mind with one of their really bad, like really hard matchups right now, unless you skew specifically for it. So GSC is just an army that has all those options to build to just get points. Like if they lose, they're kind of like Necrons, and like if you build them for team events, they will not lose by a lot. They will still get a lot of points. So they keep the differential lower.
Well, this is a beautiful thing about teams events, because you're not looking for whatever the lists that have the highest ceiling. That doesn't make it the best list. You're looking for a variance of lists, a bell curve of lists, and GSC is one of those great lists that has a really high floor of scoring. Like, I will never score less than 60 points.
Yeah.
Because for those of you who don't know, WTC scoring is based off a differential system. You have to beat someone by 51 points in order to get a max point win. That is a max point win. And if you're saying that I will always get a minimum of 60 points if I play GSC, that means I can never give up a max point win, and by default makes you a better teams list than a huge amount of others.
Yeah, exactly. Like when I build my GSC list for teams, it's designed, it will not get less than, I think it's 55 points. It just almost impossible.
Yeah.
So
that's strong.
Right.
Yeah. I agree with you. That is awesome. Let's go back up if we can before we get to the actual list that we're going to see there. But the demons list, tell me that has to be one that's full of splitting horrors.
The whole, I wish I had time to look it up. Unfortunately, I didn't have time.
It has to be.
If you took just like psychers, a psyker battery, and then just 1 unit of 30 pink horrors and 700 points to split, you could just be like, same thing as what the GSC list was just doing. I'm never going to get annihilated. I'm going to take a psychic secondary, and I'm going to take banners or engage or something like that. I'm just going to string out, get like a medium level primary, and then just get two good secondaries. And you can play a game with that. You can play a game as long as you're paired appropriately, because you get paired horribly, and that is.
Oh, of course, you still need to do the pairing. Pairing's a mini game there for sure. Is demons? Is that, could disciples be listed as demons, or are they chaos?
No, they'd be chaos based. They'd be chaos soup. If the disciples is soup, I list as. Demons is pure demons. CSM pure CSM.
Sorry, I sidetracked this, but I wanted to highlight some of the tech that I thought you would see at team tournaments like this, because you should see outliers. It's if you take a list, like if everyone in your team just brings a take all comers list, if they took the top tournament winning list from all tournaments around the world and brought them to this event, you're probably not going to win. You've got to kind of go outside the box. That's why I want to highlight a couple of these factions that I think exactly do exceptionally well in events like this, because they've got some tech that works better when you've got all these other
Yep.
So
variable factors.
one last thing I want to put a magnifying glass on. It's usually our want, or we draw attention to the brick lists, the kind of the bus stop lists that kind of stand there, don't do much, and have a high scoring floor. Things like Dark Angels, T-Suns, Death Guard. I usually want to draw a magnifying glass to see which one of those is being taken the most by people, which one is their I stand still and don't lose badly list of choice, because there is a little internal meta inside that as well. And it's actually pretty low in this one. There's 5 T-Suns, there's only 1 Dark Angels. So Dark Angels are being dropped in that role wholesale.
Mhm.
But we're seeing a bit of a opposite reaction where there are a bunch of Armor of Contempt lists that can do that, but can do a bunch of other stuff as well being taken. Grey Knights, Sisters, Custodies, they can all operate if they're built appropriately to do something similar, but have a much wider variance of other armies and lists that they can go into. And so that's what I think is happening here as an analyst looking at this, because otherwise you wouldn't see you'd see like 9 T-Suns usually at one of these events, because every list is just taking that default fallback. This guy, I can chuck this guy into anything, never going to get ruffle stomped.
Always going to be the put out if necessary,
But I do strongly believe that 3 in the Imperial super faction specifically, Sisters, Custodies, and Grey Knights, can all play a very extremely similar list, especially the Grey Knights being able to just sit still and just play to the last purifying ritual. Is an incredibly good list in that role.
Yep, absolutely it is. I agree.
All right, jumping down to the top top teams in attendance. I've done so. The Swedish WTC team and the Finnish WTC team both sent two teams of 4 split up, and I picked the one of each, just at random, just the ones that looked like they had the most similar lineup of factions, because I wanted to get a bit of comparison going. The first up is WTC Papa D. This is half of the Swedish national team. First up is Tyranids playing Leviathan. They've got really just all-comers Tyranids, 20 warriors in units of 5 as the core, and then it's all the expected big bugs: Maleceptor, Flyerant, Harpy, Exocrine. But only one of
Exocrine is an interesting choice. We've not seen that make its way in to lots of things, so good to see it here.
It's starting to get taken a little bit more. I'll hit it over to Dustin for if that's a good pick or not.
I love the Exocrine. It has its own built-in exploding 6s and ignoring terrain or cover built into it. It has a good number of shots, good profile in shots because it's -3. So that could be really helpful with all those armor contempt running around, because there's not a lot of shooting with -3 aside from the venom cannons, and this one can have a higher profile of shots too, and it's long range, which again Tyranids don't have a lot of. So I actually really like it.
Agree in every way. Next up is a Hail of Doom Masterful Shots Asuryani build. It's pretty much what you'd expect. 27 Dire Avengers, 3 medium-sized Wind Rider units. It's got 1 unit of Scorpions, Baharoth and Karandris, and then 20 Hawks. Literally what you'd expect. And this, just for people at home, usually at team events, the only lists that get to take like a singles list is usually the best 2 or 3 armies in the game. And those 2 I just read out is number 1 and number 2 best armies in the game from my experience, and they're literally just singles lists. Drukhari has a Real Space Raid detachment. This is Blackheart, Prophets of Flesh, and Red Grief. This is a ridiculously heavy MSU, but with a backbone of 15 Grotesque, 3 units of 5. It's also got 15 Incubi, and then 9 units of various MSU infantry, that mostly being Racks, and 4 Venoms. This is just a very, once again, similar to the GSC list we were talking about, that archetype with the high scoring floor. Plays Engage or Herd the Prey, can play to the last quite effectively if it wants to as well. And then lastly, we have an Imperial Knights list. And I've captioned this as Wowee buying time for the big guy as a gut check list. And usually you'll see this list as a put up to try and scare people into putting something under the bus into it. This is Imperial Knights. It is Tyrannus. It has a Castellan, an Errant, 4 Warglaves, and 2 Helverins. And literally the Errant and the Warglaves just get in the way and buy time for the Castellan to wipe you off the table, is essentially the way I see this.
Seems reasonable, yeah.
Good plan.
Yeah. And the reason this is a gut check is because if you put this up into the pairings process, they have to give you a list, and then they have to bet that you don't go first and just smash them, annihilate them off the table turn 1, because this list can do that to just about anybody on the right table. And then so it's a gut check. It's the gut check list for your opponent. What do you guys make of this 4 lineup?
I really like the lineup. Tyranids and Suryani, I think, are auto includes, and I think Drukhari, in team of 8, absolutely. So obviously they have the Drukhari player on this team here to kind of maybe help build the list, their practice the list they want to try out. And I like the MSU style because, like you said, it's a perfect defender for them because the Sirianni Tyranids, they're all comers, so they can go into anything. They could, and then they drop the Imperial Knights first, give them the right table, and then Drukhari second defender. Like it's perfect. It's exactly.
I agree with that. When I see these things, I start thinking about what would be to put out, and they have something there that's clearly, I think it,
Yep.
and then everything they're hoping everything else just falls their way based off that.
Yeah.
Yep,
This is a perfect four pack for my mind. You can swap out the roles are perfect. You could swap out the knights for a different thing that does the same thing, like a triple storm surge list would do exactly the same effect. And the Drukhari build could, like we said, be a GSC, could be sisters, could be a couple of things that do something similar in the same role, but for what it is, I think this is fantastic.
Yeah, this is the perfect archetype for this.
Yeah, perfect archetype. If anybody ever doing a 4-pack teams, come back, look at this lineup. That's the roles perfect.
Well, ATC's coming up soon, and you study these other events because it functions very similarly, as far as to what list, and team composition.
Composition.
So next up we have Team Mookie Hammer. This is half of the Finnish national team. Funnily enough, the first list listed here is Tyranids Leviathan.
Oh.
This is all comers, and this is going a different way. This is taking the 2 ofs. So this is the double flyer and double harpy list. And it's a bit MSU more than most because it's packing some Raveners and some Hormigans as well. It's got 2 of Hormigans, a pack of Raveners, double flyer and double harpy. So a bit more aggressive than I think we saw a bit more of a shooting base from the previous one with the Exocrines and the medium-sized units of warriors. This is more of the playing the table, getting aggressive. Then we have a custom Tau Sept list. This is strike swiftly with reinforced armor. Forgive me, I didn't have time to look up what these are because I haven't heard of them before, and if I have, I've forgotten. This is to the last. This is the to the last DACA list. It's just 3 absolutely maxed out in every way crisis units. And I mean maxed out. They're maxed out in every possible way.
Cool with that.
It's just MSU Crute around that. Very good list. Very
reasonable.
Yeah. And then they have a Dark Angels list. And now this list is a little bit spicier than what we usually see. As soon as we see a Dark Angels list in a teams event, we go 30 to 40 Terminators.
I am curious now to what you consider a spicy Dark Angel.
Yeah.
Well, it's taken 1 unit of Terminators and added some ability to get some points, to get more points into it, which I think's the way I prefer to play it if I was going to play it. 30 Terminators, but then it's got a couple units of Servitors, 3 Land Speeder Storms, and a Dark Shroud. So it can actually play the board. It can actually.
I like the use of servitors. A lot of people forget they exist. A lot of players don't want to take them. Like, oh man,
or don't.
One, they're not easy to get the configuration that you want to have them, like model wise. And then it's just like, well, it's not a Marine. What am I supposed to do? They score you points. That's what they do, and they're cheap.
Yeah. So this gentleman has taken the reliable core of 30 Termies, as in we talk about that high floor of the amount of points he's going to get, as in to the last is locked in, Stubborn Defiance locked in, can play Oath of Moment. But then he's gone, well, if I take 3 Land Speeder Storms, a Dark Shroud, and some Servitors, I play Engage all of a sudden, I play R&D all of a sudden, and the amount of secondaries I can take just explode, absolutely explode. In addition, he gets to play defense. Like, this guy's coming at me with Raveners. I've got Storms to go in front of my Termies, because most armies you're blocking for Termies with Termies, and you're losing Termies, and it's bad. So I think this is a better use of this archetype. It still retains all the functionality of that brick list, but actually plays the game a lot more. And lastly, we have a Drukhari list. Funnily enough, Drukhari making both of these. Very interesting, actually. This is Artist of Flesh, Blackheart, and Strife, Triple Patrol. And this is a bit of everything all the time. A little bit of everything all of the time is what I call this. It's got 2 freaking Void Ravens, 2 Ravagers, 2 units of Grotesque, 2 units of Hellions. And then it's just MSU everything else. Funnily enough, it had a unit of Reaver jet bikes as well, because he is...
Hey, they move fast.
They move fast, exactly. You want to supercharge your Hellions. But the 2 Void Ravens, 2 Ravagers is an interesting pick at the moment. How do you guys feel about that one?
The Void Ravens, that's the bomber, right? That's the
bomber, yeah.
Infantry, that basically the infantry wiper.
A character wiper if you're lucky.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate the Void Ravens. I just am scratching my head about them in this list.
Are they playing the Harpy role that we were talking about from the very first part of the show?
I was about to throw that out. They have a nice duality with the Harpies. So if you wanted to, you could pin somebody by saying, well, your option is to take a freaking Tyranids list with 2 flyers, or you could take a Drukhari list with 2 flyers, and you're playing into somebody who can't kill flyers at all. And so
the Harpies are incredibly agile. They basically get to get these multiple moves, and I think the Drukhari and the Eldari planes get similar rules to where you're very flexible, so you can do exactly what you were talking about, Adam, is basically box people in or isolate characters, isolate your targets that you want to shoot at.
Yeah, I do quite like the Drukhari list, with the exception of the Void Ravens. I just don't get them. I think they're taking them because of the pin option, and they want the mortal wound dump, which I think's totally valid. Actually,
that's the question I have too. It's like I don't think they're as durable as the Harpies, strangely enough. But
it's true. They definitely aren't. I think the Harpies going to have transhuman and one of them have a 4-up invuln. Like it's
invuln, yeah.
But I do like the idea, especially
as well.
When you've got all the stuff that we were just talking about in the army, you can go off and do things, and people will get probably a little bit of target confusion, and some of your stuff may live longer than you expected to do, which is about in the teams list you're trying to gain enough points. What role is this player playing? I think that's a better question than maybe what's in the list.
I think it's the same. Drukhari, I think, always play the same list, aside from if you start bringing the Coterie Army of Renown now. They actually play the MSU, I will get points regardless of what you do to me. I'll make sure even if you win, it will not be by a lot. The archetype here it's exactly the same. It's just there's 2 different lists in here. We still have the Tyranids as one of the all-comers. Tau is the other one because it's one of the top performing lists right now. So it's an all-comers. The Dark Angels here are the ones you put out first most of the time to get maybe a heavier table, to make sure that they don't get their points. Drukhari are a flex pick in that sense. They can go down first if there's 2 lists that would dummy your Dark Angels. Then you put down the Drukhari first so they can avoid that, and you go from there. Like it's the same archetype, just done a little bit differently. So it's still these guys know what they're doing. They obviously play for WTC, and they
phenomenal. Yeah.
Every
player on every list that we just read out through these 2 formats are world-class players.
Yeah.
So when I say I don't get something, it's simply because I don't understand it. It's not because every unit, every molecule, every particle of each one of these lists has a purpose and is fit for a purpose.
That's when I see a list like that, I think about because the player role in these teams. Look, we'll talk more about team tournaments. We love team tournaments. Everyone on this show right now is a team tournament enthusiast and have studied and won and love what all goes into it. And so we will talk about that on this show and others. But since we only have a couple of teams represented here, I think it would be, I don't know if we can pick a winner. So I just want to wish all these teams the best of luck, and we will be checking in and seeing, how these rivalries and things shake out over the course of this weekend. And that's our tournament talk for the week. Now we have a segment. If you're new here, we have a segment we call the Fuego Rapido, where we give ourselves 4 to 5 topics. Sometimes they have something to do with 40K. Sometimes they don't. But this is that palate cleanser I was talking about. We put a clock up. We give ourselves 2 minutes to talk about each topic. Once that time is over, we're done. We move on to the next one. Never to come back again. If production can this time, we'll actually have them read out the questions, and then we'll give our hot take to close out the show.
Got it, Paul. Okay, timer starts now. Best campaign book GW has ever done.
Oh, had to be. What's the original one that the Black Templar came in?
Was it Armageddon?
Armageddon, yeah.
That was my pick. Yeah, because that was the first one I ever bought. That was the first book I ever bought, because I walked into a GW and I'm like, that's cool as hell. And I bought that off the shelf. And the first Armageddon supplement, I think that was the second or third ed one. That was my pick.
And I'm calling the campaign book like the one where it's just like a storyline, within like a belt around a narrative. Because I think those early like Slaves of Darkness and stuff books, there was so much descriptive stuff in there that set the whole world, but I don't know if we can count those as campaign books.
Kind of where I was going to go with that. I was just going to say any of the Realms of Chaos books.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're all pretty good. I mean, it's a campaign book with some of like the Dark Heresy, like D&D kind of role play books, would they count?
They're campaigns, right?
Yeah, they are campaigns.
Maybe stretching it. So
phenomenal.
Hey, there's no rules in Fuego, man.
Psychic. Yeah, exactly. No. Okay. Where does Psychic Awakening rank in
It
campaigns.
doesn't.
Oh.
I was really disappointed with the fluff in Psychic Awakening.
And
Some
we got
phenomenal rules.
lore, we got models, we got
All the lore just
Triumvirate one
seemed...
wasn't
a Primarch.
bad. Triumvirate wasn't bad. That
The
wasn't Psychic
Gather-
Awakening. I'm just the Gathering
That was
Storm.
the
The Gathering Storm.
Gathering Storm.
Oh,
yeah.
Gathering Storm. I
Gathering-
think that's probably.
yeah.
I think that's what I meant to say.
Okay, Gathering Storm that was good.
It was good. It was good.
That was good.
That gave me the nostalgia tickling my lore vibes. Like
That
the
was-
battle,
yeah.
like Creed conducting the battle, the defense of Cadia. That's gonna stay with me. That was so good.
Yeah, that one is probably the best one they've come up with in the last while for sure.
There we go. We solved that one.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you even did a whole
Solved.
minute on it too. All right. So our second one is, which edition did formations the best?
So I'm assuming we're using any kind of formation. So
Isn't there only like one edition that did formations technically, like, officially?
I suppose they're calling everything formations, like Armies Renowns as a formation and all the other
Is that a
variances.
formation?
Are we talking about like the Decurion type
Yeah,
stuff?
anything you think could
That's
be
what I
called like a. Yeah, me too. That's what I've assumed.
Well,
I prefer the one I liked the most was the Decurion style, where it was kind of a follow the adventure, build it how you want. It was a
I like
whole
that.
page thing. They just overcooked the rules so much, but the concept of that is still my favorite one, I think.
Yeah.
I love the concept, like the same thing. Like I like that you want to get these buffs, well, you have to take this stuff.
Yeah.
Gives you a couple taxes in there, but gives you enough buffs to make it kind of worthwhile.
Mhm.
They did that with like fantasy too, like a while
Yeah,
back. So
yeah.
I think fantasy did it a bit better, but I think it's because they had more options to do it with. If that makes sense.
I'm going to agree with everything that you just said there, because I think that the taxes, the ones that did it the best, that were actually felt like you had to, it cost you a bit to get the extra stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it felt like you were going into, when you come up to an opponent who wasn't using those rules, it felt like still more of a not a lopsided engagement.
yeah, it's like you got all these extra rules, but I took these guys, which aren't really good, but I had to in order to get these other guys to get better.
So it feels like they were the best and not just
Yeah.
the most powerful. Like
It's weird that the armies of renown at the moment, which I'm calling formations for the sake of it, because they are a similar thing. I find they're either too good or not good. Is that fair?
Yep.
Like
There's
either
there's either no tax or it's all tax.
Anyway,
All right. So, what's the worst tournament food choice you've ever made? Man, I have a good answer for this. Go ahead.
You can go first.
Go
man.
ahead.
No,
Richard.
no, you
Do it.
guys, it's yours.
Do it. No.
The tacos. Never get the tacos at any event.
Paul's gonna
it's
disagree.
No,
if you
it's
get
never
a bad
good.
taco, it's a
at
bad
the
time.
event.
At the
if you
event.
did it
At
from
the
the,
event.
Yeah, that's where you went wrong.
Yeah. So I will say at Adepticon this past year, I don't know if it's been the case the whole time. This is not like a there's two lines you could get into, and I seem I would consistently pick the worst one. This one over here had just the chicken nuggets, but this one over here had broccoli beef rice bowls, that kind of stuff. Probably a better choice than just the
I love those.
than just the chicken fingers.
Worst one I've ever made. We have a tradition in Australia. Well, it's kind of an urban legend myth where if you are undefeated day one of a 2-day tournament, you're supposed to eat 2 main meals that night, and then you'll go undefeated the next day. And I can tell you, some of those main meals have been questionable. Because you'll just pick what are the 2 that I can actually fit in at dinner. And sometimes you'll do a double steak and you'll feel like a big man. And sometimes you get a kebab at 2 o'clock in the morning to be your second main for the day. And no, do not do that. Do not find a more reasonable trope urban legend to aspire to.
Yeah.
My mistake that I will do from time to time is mac and cheese. It's just it's something that I always
It's
like.
delicious,
"Man,
'cause
mac
carbs and cheese is delicious."
Yeah, exactly. I love this. This is so good. And then I eat it, and then the next day I regret it. And I know what did it. Everybody knows what did it.
Yeah. That's the easiest whodunit. That's the easiest game of Cluedo I've ever seen.
Exactly.
All right.
All right. So I'll start the clock. That's the important part. If you were helping someone new get into painting, where would you tell them to start first?
Prime black.
Okay.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah,
Like
if
90,
you prime any other
95%
color,
of the
so
time.
there is this. Okay, you're going to find people that tell you that you have to do things this way or have to do things that way, and you actually don't have to do things anyway. You do things as easy for you, because if this is a chore for you, you want to get to a place where you enjoy it and it's less of a chore. Priming black, is one of those things like, oh, only beginners prime black and pros prime white. That is not that was actual advice that I was I'd heard when I was just getting started in this game, and I don't know if it still persists or whatever. That is not true. You can prime whatever color you want, but black is more forgiving than any of those other colors, and it's easier to paint your way out of that instead of having to paint your way out of priming white.
That was extremely specific. I can't tell if this is going to be a more broad, but yeah, prime black 95% of the time. I would tell if I was telling somebody to start painting now, I would actually tell them to start painting with contrasts. I'd be like, learn contrasts, and then go to the base shade layer highlight method. Because you will get a bunch done quicker than anybody else has ever done before as a new player by smashing out contrast painted units, and then you can build yourself up to the beautiful edge highlighting and layering and things like that as you go.
See, for me, when I tell people now, because this is actually one of the ways that I started learning a lot of tips and tricks on how to do things, is find the specific model you want to paint and search on YouTube for a tutorial, like going online, because they'll actually outline the exact paints to do. They'll make sure you get one that tells you the technique, so it'll actually teach you everything you do, and you won't forgive yourself because you won't get it right the first couple times, but having somebody show you step by step will really improve your game a lot faster.
Yep.
All right. There we go. Stranger Things 4 versus Kenobi. Hot takes, no spoilers. Just hot takes. Okay.
I haven't seen any of Kenobi yet. I haven't seen any.
Really?
Yet. Nah.
Well, how am I supposed to talk about it?
Just don't.
Well,
just
give us your opinion. Don't talk about the storylines.
Oh, you've definitely watched all of the Kenobi that are out right now, right?
Oh yeah, I have. Yeah. I'm wanting you to try to spoil this or somehow.
I'm not spoiling it. Hot takes.
Stranger Things versus Kenobi. They are radically different shows.
Yes, they're radically different.
And I think that Stranger Things is taking more chances than Kenobi has. But at the same time, I've been surprised by things we've seen early in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. So it's tough. It's to say if we're comparing the two, I think that Stranger Things is taking some more risks.
When they told me the Kenobi show was coming out, before I knew anything about it, I'm like, what? It's just gonna be him sitting in a hut for 8 episodes? is it gonna be creepily spying on Luke? Is that it? That's just okay.
But you get to see some things in Kenobi, and not just. There are cameos from actors, that you might want to see.
Nice, Paul. Nice.
Nice.
There are there's storylines that I think are going to give us some more connected tissue, and if they do it, if they play it like things like Rogue One and like Rebels and that kind of stuff in that same vein, it's going to be brilliant.
I will say, Stranger Things is picking up a lot faster than Kenobi did, but Kenobi, I think, is going to sustain longer, if that makes. Yeah.
I'm 3 episodes into Stranger Things, and I hear a lot goes down in episode 4. But so far, I think this is way better than number 3. No, I did not love season 3 of.
Oh, you mean? Oh, yeah. Oh, it definitely is. Like this season, I think is
way better.
Way better for sure.
Also, have you noticed that Stranger Things seasons 1 or 2 is just aliens? It's just aliens.
It is.
All right. And our last one is best 40K feel-good moment in event history.
Ooh. Is that because we just had a really big one at the BAO?
Maybe.
I mean, feel good for me?
Yeah, feel good for who?
Yeah, feel good for Paul.
Feel good in general.
I will say I love it when people are there for their first tournament, and it's even cooler when it's like a teenager or a father son combo or something like that. That are there, and just you can just tell they're just kind of loving the whole experience, and seeing that makes me outside of winning. And I'm not trying to give a softball answer. My best feel good moment was the first time I ever won a grand tournament. Like I was like really, really jazzed on that.
Yeah, but
but now the ones that I look forward to from other people, it's when it's their first time, when they're just starting that journey.
yeah. Adam?
As a podcaster and an analyst and a shoutcaster and stuff, there's a couple of like moments that just like stay with you. One of them was the BAO just gone past. For those who don't know, Jesse Sell, a very close friend of Jeffy and Control Robinson, won that event, having not played. I don't believe he's played much competitive 40k. He just legit, there was undeniable hand of destiny about that man. He's like, I'm going to win this. I'm going to win this for Jeff. Yeah. And I believe, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I believe Jesse was there when Jeff passed. Like extremely close friend. And for him to win that is an incredibly beautiful circle to close in the lexicon, in the stories in the annals of our game. Nick winning the LVO over Tony when Tony got Tony'd, that was a pretty feel good moment for everybody at home. Just having such a high level showcase of the sportsmanship and that has catapulted sportsmanship the game over into new places, being like, there's the standard we all aspire to. There's what we need to hold each other to. And I'm sorry, Dustin, you got 0 seconds.
Adam's watched you out.
I can't top that one.
We have rules. We have rules. You don't get to. We have rules.
Yeah, I did. I zoned him out. In the defense. I'm sorry, Dustin. I'm sure
we have very few rules on this show, and in that section is we have to keep.
We have a code.
The code. I'm coming back as an Imperial Knight, but I'm going to play as a Chaos Knight next week.
Seriously. Okay. Look, if you're joining us after the fact on the podcast aggregators, please leave us some comments, give us thumbs ups, 5-star reviews if you're so inclined. That is a hassle-free way that you can help support the show. It helps other people find us, and we really appreciate that you doing that. And then consider coming talking with us live in chat. We do this live every Thursday, talking about the tournaments, the biggest and brightest tournaments, talking about the meta, the list, the players you're going to see there. And each and every week, it is a pleasure. Adam, Dustin, loved it. We'll see y'all next week.
See you next week.